Welcome guys to Home Cash Buyers Academy. Today I want to present to you an architect that I've had the pleasure of working with, and he has had such a successful career in the past few years working with flow design. And I really wanted to present to you guys to him because he was the one that I actually worked with myself on my flip in Woburn. And I think he'll be a really great resource to you guys because you're gonna get a lot of great information, a lot of great insight. You're gonna get a lot of the information that I wish I had initially to help you have a successful flip, which we ended up having. So without further ado, I wanted to introduce to you guys a good friend of mine, Darguin Fortuna, to explain a little bit more about, what he does, his company, his experience, and just give you guys a little bit more detail as far as what we're going to be discussing today in our course.
Excellent. Thank you, Roberto, for having me. Always a pleasure to talk to you, be with you, and all that. So my name is Darguin Fortuna. I am one of the principals of Flow Design Architects. Been Flow Design Architects for about 6 years. We're going to be celebrating our 6th year soon. And went to the Boston Architectural College. But to give you a little bit of my humble roots, I'm from the Dominican Republic. I was born in La Vega, Jimabajo La Vega, which is in the north. Then I went to Santo Domingo, where I moved to study a little bit for architecture at Universidad Autónoma de Santo Domingo, UASD. So went there, stayed there for a little while, and then I got the opportunity to come to the United States, chase the American dream.
Amazing.
Went to the Boston Architectural College, grinding, right, doing doing what we need to do to get where we want to go, follow our dreams, and graduated, went through the process of becoming licensed, opened the shop, and we've been here ever since. I've worked at multiple different offices in Boston, bigger, smaller, larger, different kinds of offices to try to get a feel for what I wanted to do. And then, over time, it dawned on me that I really had to do it on my own, not necessarily working for another person, but on my own, so that I can serve the people I love most, and serve my community, because there are not many like me, right? So that was a trigger, and my business partner, Marco Severino, immediately jumped right on it and said, yeah, sure, let's do this. So, and we did that. So, and Flow Design, just so you know, focuses on creating diversity in the field of architecture and design. So that's one of our core values, because there's not a lot of, let's say, Latinos in architecture. There may be a lot in construction, but there's not a lot of them designing and doing engineering and doing all of that. So that was something that we discovered as we went. So, we even have something on our YouTube channel that says, finding our passion within architecture, finding our why within architecture. Because inside, right, that's how we found out what we wanted to do. So that's, a little bit about me. Like I said, got licensed. I am licensed in Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Florida, Pennsylvania, actually, too. We just got licensed there, too. Wow. And we've been doing work all over. So that's, we also we're part of the AIA, American Institute of Architects, part of NCARB, which is the reason why I can get licensed in any state, because that credential allows you to be licensed in any state. Very, very important to have somebody licensed working with you. So, and we'll get to that in a minute. But we've won awards, thank God, too, which is a blessing. But the most important part is that we're touching the field of architecture by the people we hire and train, and also touching the community that we serve, right? It's not just the 1%ers, but also people like us that might not even understand what an architect is. Some of them don't even know how to say the word architect, right? So, and we try to help them out and get them all the way through, very humbling and very helpful. So we're, and the buildings that we do then end up being amazing, which is something you brag whenever you drive by. We did that, So, I mean, we share the credit, right? Everybody gets a little bit of the credit. So yeah, so that's a little bit of me and where I study and all that stuff. So like I said, I went to the Boston Architectural College, and that's how we got to where we are. I personally very thankful to God, for giving me the chance and the passion to keep on going. Yeah.
No, very humble beginnings. I mean, again, working with Darguin, I had a great experience. And then I know you guys, a lot of you are actually, this could be your first time flipping because you are taking the course. And we really want to kind of dive in as far as for a first time flipper, what it looks like working with an architect. Why would we have to work with an architect? So I think one of the first questions we have is, why is it important for a flipper to work with a registered architect?
So there's many reasons why it's important, and I'll try to break them up, and not necessarily in the priority levels. But the number one reason I find is that there's a lot of competition out there. So anybody could design anything almost, right? So anybody could just catch their own stuff, call Home Depot and get somebody to do their cabinet layout and just work it around, right? But me working with Peter Solaris from Flipping Boston, I learned a ton about how you can have a competitive edge against everybody else. So a lot of the flips that Peter Solari did with us, that we do most of them with him together as a team, and we started learning about the things that give people a competitive edge, and having a designer, an architect that's licensed, it's already by default an edge against anybody that's just really putting makeup on the building, right? So we don't necessarily just put makeup on the building. We don't necessarily just try to make it look okay and whatever. The market is very, very robust. There's a lot of competition. So having a talented, award-winning designer that understands the structure, understands code, understands liabilities, understands what sells too, then you have a well-rounded team, right? So you may not know anything about design. Any member of this class may have never even done a flip in their entire life. But having a professional that's licensed, that's insured, that covers you, will guide you through the process and will make it look seamless, right? So anybody, working with a professional will always give you that support, right? And more so when you've never done it, right? So then the results that come out are by far better than any other flipper that will be doing it by themselves, or having some, cousin that might have a background, but they don't have the proper training, right? The full training. So that starts giving a competitive edge. So that part, the competitive edge, is the number one reason. So the second reason is that you will not have to be going around like crazy to ask questions all over the place, because you can get a lot of answers relatively quickly. For instance, in the case that we were working with you, there were structural questions that we had to answer.
A lot of them, yes.
Right, we had to show up on site. So having an architect saves you the time of having to figure out, do I call the inspector, don't I call the inspector? Do I call an engineer, don't I call an engineer? Do I call the lumberjar? What am I gonna ask the lumberjar? I don't know, right? What's the LBL? I have no idea. So the architect will make it easy for you to, he will say, hey, here's what you need, here's where you get it, here's when you call, right? So it will help you out because we're seasoned. We know what we're doing. This is what we do for a living.
Right.
So that's always very helpful. And the results, again, will be completely different. So that the competitive edge, the guidance to a one point of contact that will guide you all the way from where you cut, where you demo, how you demo, where you add it, where you take, right? That will help you right there, right? So that's the second. And I would say the third one is that, and it goes back to the first on the competitive edge.
Yep.
I think it's really that this is what we're trained to do, and we're trained to do world-class design, right? Because we know that not everybody has the budget to do world-class design, right? Many of the buildings you see that are billions of dollars, right? Many people don't have that money, and a flip is not even about making it that way, but what are the shortcuts within the building where you can add value and make an impact without breaking the budget, without burning the budget. So we know that. We know that this texture here and this color here and this fireplace here will make it a big time, right? We know that doing this with the island will do this. Doing this with the master bedroom suite will do this, right? A lot of people don't just travel the whole world every day to know what a super master bedroom looks like. We do this for a living. Right? I went to school for 5 years and they had to do 3,200 hours and 6 exams to know how to do responsible, well thought out design, right? So then I know where to cut corners. And it's not even cutting corners, it's just saying, well, we don't necessarily need this if we can do X and Y, right? You won't end up with columns in the middle of your floor plan because I will know, well, we can change this LVL, we can do this, we can do that, right? Versus somebody that doesn't have a lot of knowledge, they will just do whatever they did on the previous project. And the market changes every day. Right. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over. The principles you could probably repeat, which is the principles you're teaching, but every project could be different, right? Every project could look different, and you're creating a legacy for the person that will live there, right? So you're gonna touch their lives, and that's something that you get from hiring an architect, right? So that's some of the things. Yeah.
And there's two really good points that you made there. One of them is, you don't have to know everything. You're not gonna be a professional architect. A lot of us have different backgrounds. I had a background in finances, and it's like I had no idea what it took to become an architect. I had some ideas as far as like the design aspect of it, But this is why, as a flipper, you're also taking on the role of a project manager, where you're leveraging other people's experiences to basically create and fulfill your flip. So as he mentioned as well, you want to work with somebody who's an architect who is investor friendly, who has worked with somebody who's investing, because they also have the understanding, like, you're in this to make money. So it's like, where in the design, which is going to be one of the questions that we ask, is where in the design can you add value so that your property can increase in value, but you're not also breaking the bank. And that's another really important, touch point that I wanted to discuss. Before we do discuss that, how does a flipper really know when they need an architect? Because there could be a lot of different scenarios where they just have a house. Maybe they're just doing cosmetic repairs. Cosmetic repairs is just, simple paint, a little touch up here and there. But when does a flipper know that, okay, there's a lot going on in this house, maybe structurally the house isn't in the best conditions. We find houses in so many different conditions.
Yeah.
How do we know when to hire someone like you?
So in my opinion, I guess I'm a little biased. I think you should always call an architect whenever you're doing a flip, in my opinion. So, and there is different levels of services, right? So when I feel, I could get, in the class, you're probably going to be touching, or you are touching upon a lot of the different aspects of the flip. One of them is people who have a goal for the house. Like, it has to do X, Y, and Z for me to be able to make X, Y, and Z. But when you show that premise to an architect, like me, the architect will start telling you, we'll give you reality checks. We'll give you reality checks about whether you can do that addition or not, whether that addition is on the setbacks, whether you should even buy the property, in fact. A lot of people call me early on. I have a team of investors that call me very early on, and they say, here are 3 properties I'm looking at. I'm looking at these 3 properties, and I want to do X, Y, and Z with these 3 properties. Can I do it? And I have a fee for that level of engagement. That's a level of service that I do, and I, within, let's say, 24 hours, will have answers for him. Why within 24 hours? Because it's a deal, and deals don't come and go every day, right? You got to really grab him. So I immediately, as soon as I get the call from that client, I immediately look at all the yay and nay for that property. I'll tell you a little anecdote of a couple of projects, that, because they called us really early, we were able to save them money. And I'll tell you one that was not the case. So this client had a project in Worcester. So they're about to close. They put an offer. They called us and they say, hey, do me a preliminary of what's possible within this property, all the different options. I want to do X. When we looked at the property, we looked at what the existing house was. They wanted to subdivide the lot and all that stuff. We went through thoroughly zoning, code, and we went through all the bylaws within Worcester, within that district, and found out that there was about 80% wetlands within the property.
Wow.
So nothing could really be done. Nothing could really be done. So that client called us and sent us a Christmas present, actually, saying, you saved me from this deal, because I immediately said, because the offer was continuing upon getting a report from my architect. The architect wrote the report, and the report concluded that this property was not worth me buying it. It had substantial amount of wetlands. So they didn't buy it. They moved on. They hired us for another project right after that, which is great. They move quickly, they get an answer, they know that's not a deal. So the other one, it sadly was the opposite case. This client called me after they had already closed on the property and already had the property, and they were asking us, what can we do? Same case. It was about 90% wetlands. Nothing on that property could be saved. Nothing. They couldn't even touch it. They couldn't even touch it. And we're talking about, they had a house, they wanted to do an addition, they wanted to do another house next door. It was really big. But usually when something looks too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. Right. So they called us early, and we were able to evaluate that property right away. So in my opinion, as soon as you see the deal, you immediately say, hey, Darwin, I got X amount for you. Take a look at this very quickly for me. You could even put a number and say, I have X amount of your time here. Give me whatever you can within this amount of time, and get me an answer within this amount of time, and so that I can say yes to the deal or not to the deal, right? So after you move on and say yes is a good one, then in my opinion, the next time you call me is as soon as you have access to the property. Doesn't mean when you close. The realtor can give you a key. If you know you're gonna close, or most of these deals are cash, right? So you know you have the property, you know it's a go, you know the offer was accepted. Get me there. Get me there right away. Time is of the essence, and you know that. Time is money, right? And more so when it's hard money lender. I don't know how. I work with so many different investors, right? A lot of them are either cash, some of them are they refinance their own home and whatever. You know, a lot of them do different things, different ways, and I'm sure you're covering all of that here. But we understand that time is of the essence, and we understand that money. It's really bleeding right out. The moment you put the offer, that money's already sitting in there, right? That you could be making interest on it. You could be making money on it. So we say, even when you're not sure, I would like to do a preliminary visit to the property. Because the first call that I told you about, I don't even go to the property. I just study the property. So that's the yes or not to buy it. I just study the property in the zoning perspective, right? If you want me to go, that will be a little more. But if you want me to go, I could also go. But there's just sometimes no time. I just bumped into this deal, Darwin. Tell me what you think very quickly. Go through zoning, go through everything, right? So that's different. But after you say yes, and I say, yeah, that looks, and I will not say, yes, 100% looks great. I would say this is most likely a good fit. This is most likely feasible to do what you want, right? Then after you decided that you're going forward, and you get me access there, I want to go and do a preliminary existing conditions. I do a survey of the entire property, inside, see the structure, see everything. And I can start giving you numbers. What numbers? Square footages. I want to give you square footages. I want to start giving you, here's what the property is like. Here's what it is as it is right now, and all the potentials in there. And I'm going to request from you the wish list. So I always request, the second step, we have a very thorough process that we use. That wish list of everything that you want. So we'll compare the real existing with the wish list, and we'll start pairing it up together. But we're talking that you haven't even closed. The architect's already working. With that existing conditions, I am able to get you drawings that you can do a demo permit and get moving the moment you have ownership of the property, or even before, if you have an agreement with the client that it's gonna be, it's a set deal, you go right in. You have already demoed, and we're designing as we go. And that partnership gets better and better the more you work with that particular architect, right? It gets better because it's almost like intuitively, right? We know what we're doing. So that's important, right? Because in the wish list, I even want to know the budget, the style you're looking for, the concepts you're looking for, the timeline that you're looking for, right? Oh no, this one I'm going to give myself 6 months. This one I'm going to give myself 2 months. This one I would like to do it in 3 months, and we'll start evaluating all of that, right? And by then, I already have a contract for the whole project. I already have a contract with you for how much it's going to cost, how long it's going to take, and what we're going to be doing.
No, that's perfect. I mean, that's great information, because at the end of the day, it's like you want to save yourself. Not every deal, I guess it's important to say that it's not every deal that you find is going to be a deal that you can take. You want to, again, you're in this business to make money, to make profits. But if you find yourself in a position where you get a house, but you have all these ideas, which are great, but if they're not approved by zoning, for an example, the architect will be the first one to tell you, hey, you have a great idea to convert this single family into a 2-family, but zoning does not allow for you to build a 2-family. This is only zoned for a single family residence. And again, when it comes to zoning, this is something that the architects will have a lot of insight on, and they can inform you. So before you make any purchases, another great point that you made was, have a contingency in your purchase and sales agreement that basically states that you want to at least have, it's contingent on the architect findings to make sure that it's a deal worth flipping for you. Because if you find out that, for an example, it's like 80% wetland, what that basically implies is that you cannot build next to it. So you can try to, buy a single family house and want to build another one next to it, but if zoning doesn't allow it,
so no additions, you can't do anything. There's a lot. Sometimes even dormers you can't even put on it. So yeah, that's really tough.
That's information that you really want to have. So to his point, it is optional to work with an architect on every flip, but you kind of want to budget it out because they might save you a huge headache and a huge loss.
That was another point. So you said when, so I said, I told you I'm biased because I'm an architect, right? And but I think that there's different levels. Right. There's even a $50 consultation that will save you thousands of dollars of, hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment. So you're like, well, that makes sense. Having that call, getting that information will immediately help me to know whether I should move forward. And if I move forward, even without hiring the architect as the designer for the whole project, as the architect for the whole project, I already know what I'm up against, right? Yes. I already know all that stuff, because most of the deals, you waive most of the inspections. You waive everything. But don't you want to at least have the architect, which is the one that will know what can possibly be done there, much more than anybody else, pretty much. So tell you that, so then you say, well, yeah, this is going to work. I can do it. I don't necessarily need him. Now I'm aware, because knowledge is money, so I got that knowledge. So that's always important. And that's a good point that you said. You don't necessarily have to do the whole flip with an architect. Not at all. In fact, a lot of people can do it themselves. That's something you can even watch on YouTube, right? So it's all good. But having that team, and also it depends on what kind of investor you want to be. So I mentioned Peter Solaris, which we do a lot of work with, Donny Moore, which is another very, busy investor too. There are a lot of them that do, we're talking about 20, 30 flips a year, which is almost impossible to do. Right. But if you have a team that's all lined up and ready, what kind of flip is this? Because it should be different levels of flips, in my opinion, right? So this is a heavy duty, this is a medium, this is a proceed painted. You know what? This is a haul and wait, right? So some of them that you just haul and just sell, that's it. You know what I mean? Clean the backyard. Have Pedro clean the backyard, well good. You know what I mean? So it's all good, it's easy. So all of that gets defined, what kind of investor you are, what kind of a flip you want to do, what kind of a level of investment you want to put into this, how soon do you want to do it. So, and that's all part of this class, right? So you get that green light, and you decide how you want to move forward. Sometimes even getting an opinion on paint colors from an architect might save you a lot of money and a lot of headache. It might save you marriage too if you're doing it with your partner. Even it's like, yeah, let's get the architect give us an opinion, you know what I mean? So I'll immediately ask who writes the check, and then I'll answer my color.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Depending on the color, yeah.
So you touched a little bit on, what you need from the flipper to, continue to move forward and get started on the project, So in this course, I actually have an example of the template that I produced to you. It was a little bit excessive. I like to go above and beyond on the things that I do. But I always want to give you guys the best. So I
have to say something about that wish list.
Yeah, we could say it. So it's a wish list that you basically create for your architect, and it's basically kind of giving the architect the idea of how you want to go about your flip, how you want to design it, just ideas. These are just things that you come up with, through YouTube channels, and you
should upload it so that they can download it too.
It is. It's you guys can actually upload it on the link. You guys will get it after this course, but I guess
that's a big bonus, by the way.
It's huge. It's a huge bonus because it's so detailed, and it's very clear on what you want for your flip.
So I'll tell you a couple of things that that wish list told me about you right away. So, because that's very important, right? We get a bunch of calls. Right now, we even have a wait list for people to call us because we're busy. So when I get a wish list like that from the very beginning, and I get a call like yours, I immediately put you on a level. This client is a serious client. This investor is very serious about what they're doing. So he's the real deal, I'm the real deal. We're a match, we're good. So that was the first impression. We all looked at each other at the office and we're like, this is serious, this is great. This is more than we needed. So at the same time that it shows that you're the real deal, it also takes a little while to digest. So that could be even fine-tuned so that you don't have to give me all of that. That's just a master, you did a master piece of all your elements, but from there, we probably only needed X, Y, and Z. Got it. And oftentimes, too much information is bad too. Okay. Too little is horrible. Too much is also bad because it takes me a while, and I may even increase my fee on that end and be like, well, this client has so much in there that this is not going to be my average flip, when it actually probably is, right? But it's just that you are very detailed. So from there, I just want X, Y, and Z. And on our system for design, we show you. We say, here's what we want. Here's a sample of what we want. So you don't necessarily need to give me much more on that. So one sheet could have done it, right? 1.5 sheet could have done it. That was a very thorough one. But at the same time, he answered a lot of our questions very quickly. Right. You know, we okay, you know what? We don't need to even meet. We got it, you know? We understand each other. Right. So that was very good. That was very thorough. And I recommend people using that as a reference, but creating their own style template and their own style sort of levels of, you know, here's what we're looking for, here's what we want, and scratching anything that's noise, okay, so that we can be very effective, right?
Makes sense. No, that's perfect. Because again, you want to have, great communication. Your architect is part of your team, and it's a relationship that you want to have a strong relationship with, as far as communication goes. So you want to be professional. You want to be very meticulous with everything that you're doing, very detailed, because the more detail that you provide, there's less room for error on both ends. And then, to me, it's just a matter of keeping that communication open, and you got to do your part as well. He was able to work very quickly because I responded very quickly to a lot of his emails. So it's important that you guys, as you're communicating, whether it's texting, calling, Zooming, or email, that you're on top of the communications with your architect to make sure that you guys are getting things done in a timely manner.
Yeah.
That being said,
I was gonna say,
go ahead.
even though you are teaching this class for them to learn how to make money flipping houses,
Right.
at the same time you're minting millionaires in here, right? And I'm an investor myself. I'm a business person myself. So there is a lot of piggybacking from each other that we can gain from seeing, oh, this is very efficient, this is very effective. How can I apply it to this? So even the way that our process works can be mirrored and be like, oh, wait a minute. So I can do that method, that process, and be able to be faster. Because the only way you can do 20, 30 flips a year, right, which is very, very bold, is if you have a system, which you are teaching them right now. You're showing them that system, that process, and they can continue to improve it more and more, right? So that helps all of us. So, yeah.
No, great point, great point. And I guess the next question for us would be more, we're working with you, the architect. What is a typical, I guess, timeline and budget that one should keep in mind when working with an architect on the flip?
So it all depends on the kind of flip, right? So not all flips are created equal.
Correct.
So we see that. We see some of our flips. We've been very, 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 very fortunate that most of our flips sell for over $1 million. Most of our houses that we renovate, which depends on location and all these different things. But we also do a lot of two families too, right? So there are flips for two families that we've been doing in Somerville, a ton of them. So the typical timeline varies on the level of intensity of the flip. Typical flip that I get a call for is, I'm going to remove this main wall, I'm going to create an open concept, and I'm going to put a nice kitchen in here. The rest, I'm just going to renovate, take, and put right back in with new stuff. That could take a week and a half or a week. That's very simple. I'm just gonna size an LBL, and I'm gonna lay out a little kitchen, and you're gonna give that to your kitchen designer, company, and then we're just gonna use that. That's very quick. I mean, 2 weeks you have that done. That's very simple. But let's say you want to reconfigure rooms, reconfigure roof, do a dormer, right? Add additions, right? Most surveyors, you wouldn't need a survey if you have an addition. So most surveyors are flat out busy all the way to like 6, 7, 8 months. Wow. Not the kind of timeline that a developer would want to hear. No. So good thing is Flow Design does have an in-house surveyor. We decided that we were going to acquire a surveying team, and we're going to work together so that our flips move faster. And not only our flips, all of our projects move faster. So we typically do a 2 weeks timeline, which is now going up to 3 and 4 because it's been really, really demanding. It's been really busy. So, and I guess that's a good thing. Yeah. So the moment you start doing additions, and we do our zoning review and know that, okay, no setbacks, no problems, property, that takes 2 weeks, right? From beginning to end, an average flip, even with additions and dormer renovations, may take anywhere design-wise from 3 to 6 weeks, sometimes 8. But doesn't mean that you're just sitting not doing anything during those 8 weeks. In my opinion, which is what I recommend, we'll get you a demo permit. We'll get you a preliminary design for the first floor. And we call that fast track. That actually has a premium. So cost-wise, I am compelled to not give exact prices right now because at the time of recording, prices are one thing with inflation all the way up to 9.1%. So we don't really, it wouldn't be fair to say, well, that's what it cost then, that's what it costs now. But I can give you averages, and that's fine. That's perfect. Right? So on average, I can do a flip all the way from $2,000 to $8,000.
Okay.
Right? So $2,000 to $10,000 and that might be a 2-family too included on that average, right? So it's we could do a flip for a 2-family, and the package includes a bunch of different things that, if it's a 2-family, you're going to need to do condo documents. You still need to do a survey anyways. You need to get the Mylar printed. There's a lot of things, and we are some of the most affordable out there by a lot. We're probably going to change that, but hey, I'll tell you right now, since we're in the class, anybody that comes and says, I watched the class and I was there, we'll treat them really good. We'll honor these prices even if the prices go up over time, which is a credit I already have for taking this class. And I put my money where my mouth is. So what I say is what I do. So why? Because it's going to be easier to work with somebody that has already taken this class. Because they already follow the process. So that's an average, right? And there are hiccups that come in. Like if you need me to represent you in zoning, I actually do not recommend a lot of flips that involve zoning personally to be done, because they unless the deal was so good that you could even wait 3 months to go to zoning, get it approved, and you would still make a lot of money, right? Because zoning scares a lot of people, but it's not scary to me. That's what I do, right? So it's not scary. That also gives you a lot of leverage, because you can get things approved that the property currently doesn't have. And you could even just sell it after you get approval from zoning, because that already has money. You already flipped that property technically, right? You might have gotten it approved to be a 2-family when it's a single family. That already is money, right? You might have already gotten approvals to do this dormer and this addition, which somebody will be frightened to do, but they already have the approval. So that's, the averages and times depend on all of those levels of intensity, but 2-3 weeks for the little super easy one, 6 weeks, 8 weeks maybe, some of the more difficult ones. It also depends on when you call. Why? Because we're in New England right now. This class, everybody's seeing it everywhere. I do projects in Florida as a Darguin Fortuna architect, but the timelines are different there too. And here we got snow country, right? So we get snow piled up. So do you think my surveyor is going to go survey with -10 degrees out there? No, we're going to wait. We're going to have to wait. I can have all my permit drawings, my demo permit drawings done, but the surveyor can't go there. And now even us can't go measure there, because most of those buildings are full guts. They don't have insulation. They don't have heating. So we're not going to go freeze ourselves. So that starts creating delays. If it rains, it creates delays. So those things need to be allotted on the contingencies. And we try very hard to stay within the timeline we say. So our timeline is including contingencies. It's including that it may rain, and that's included there, right? So that we deliver. And that answers your question.
Yeah, perfect. Because it can take anywhere between 2 to 8 weeks, but that's obviously them giving themselves cushion in case there's any situations that are unexpected or natural things that occur that cause delays, right? So we're working with you as the architect. I personally hired you, and it was an amazing experience.
Thank you.
Can you explain a little bit more as far as like what you provide the flipper? Because when it comes to me, and I'm assuming most of your clients, I received renderings. It was an amazing video that you guys can actually see in the course. Basically, a walkthrough of what the actual home would look like post renovations. And you also gave me a set of plans to basically provide to the construction workers. Now, this to me was key, because when I first received it, I was like, what is this? I had no idea what architectural plans were. It was like a big thing of like a whole, so many different pages, and I didn't understand it. But to my surprise and my knowledge, the contractors, the electricians, the HVAC technicians, the general contractors, they all read it like it was something that they read in elementary school.
Yeah, I don't know. So quick shout out there too, by the way. Because as I told you at the beginning of the interview, I want to serve a greater community, right? So we want to serve a lot of underdogs that would have never been able to flip a house or know anything about construction or know anything about design. So we try to make things really easy. And in our YouTube channel, if anybody subscribes and watches, we have classes into how to read these plans, what they mean one by one, and that's free. Actually, that's a bonus right there. But you wouldn't know that unless we said it here first. But because of that, because that can be very tedious and very confusing.
Yes, of course.
And so on that, answering your question, and I'll say, very rarely would many of the competitor architects do the things that we do, because of the feedback we've been getting. So building inspectors and clients across the board and other engineers and architects that have seen our work have called us and complimented us on what we deliver. we've been trying to deliver a full comprehensive package that people won't even have to ask questions. It's like, it's all there, right? So the process also yields a result. We have our 4-step process. In our 4-step process, you're gonna get a package with the existing conditions of the property, step 1. You're gonna get a package of the envision of the property, step 2, pictures, concepts, ideas, what you wanna do. You're gonna get on step 3, 2 design options. We always do 2 design options, right? Because there's a million ways of doing things.
Right.
And we deliver 2 that make the cut. Doesn't mean that we've only done 2. Right. We've probably done 8, probably 10. Real quick sketches, right? Not every great idea is really a great idea, right? It's like, oh, that wasn't really a good idea. You know, I thought that driving to Florida with 3 children was a great idea. It wasn't a good idea. No, it wasn't. I had to stop every time. So there are a lot of ideas that, you know, so we do show you the 2 that make the cut, the 2 that we think are the creme of the creme, right? Like the best. So well, we do have a favorite one within the package. Nice. And on that package, of the 2 options. So backtracking a little bit, on the existing package, you get floor plans, each level, you get elevations of each level, and you get a 3D of your property as it is on black and white. This is what it looks. On step 2, you get all of these images, some of the ones you provided, and some of the ones we see that fit. The way I see it is like, have you gone shopping online where Amazon says, you may like this? Is that a suggestion, right? So you may want that. So you do your package of the step 2, telling us what you envision, and then we say, I think looking at everything you want here, you probably want this also. Or maybe you mean this. It's like, is that what you mean? Right? And we have you sign and approve that package as, that's the direction I want. So, and you get that there. So then on step 3, you get the 2 design options, and the 2 design options will have floor plans, elevations, and perspectives. So you're gonna see 3Ds of what it looks like. The level of rendition, like how beautiful the rendering is with the colors and all that, depends on how much you pay, honestly. Because we have it on different levels of services. We have, you know, we divided it into Ionic, Doric, and Corinthian, which is the levels of the Greek columns.
The Greek columns, yeah.
Yeah, so you probably have seen all of them. So the Corinthian is the most elaborate and detailed one, right? Many flippers don't want the Corinthian. So many flippers want either the Doric or the Ionic. Right, so the middle line or the first one. And what it means is that it will get you what you need to get a permit and move forward, but it probably won't be as detailed because you will guide your builders on how detailed that needs to be. You know what I mean? So there are some Corinthian flips. We've done some Corinthian flips. They sell really above, you know, one of them sold 300,000 above asking. Wow. They put an offer all the way from California to the house here in Natick, and they got it, and they didn't even visit the building, which is amazing.
That actually happened with the flip with Woburn. So we actually had, the buyers were from North Carolina. Yeah. They went to the house. The real estate agent was literally recording and doing like, I think it was like a Zoom, where they were like basically recording the whole house, and they were so amazed with it that they literally 40 minutes after the first open house, they put an offer of $25,000 over asking.
Did you know? That's it.
And that's to show you the quality of having a good architect, because if you guys saw the house before, it was all over the place. And then the design that Darwin created, it was just magnificent, open space, a master suite, a master spa. You guys see it, right? So it was a beautiful flip, and that's the type of quality that you want. This is why you want a good architect on your team, because they can help you sell your house for more, you know, if you do it the right way.
Exactly, and on that step 3 that I told you, that package 3, right? So you get to see things you didn't even think were possible within that property, because we do 2 different options, and we add a little bit here and say, well, that won't break the budget, right? Like that will really work out and it will add a lot of value. So we will look at that and we'll offer that, right? So after one of those options gets approved with detail, maybe there's some suggested changes to the option. Maybe you want a combination of the 2 options. Maybe you want option 1 with something else you saw recently, right? And we do that and we edit it. We then create a construction documents package. The construction documents package is actually a completely different style of drawings. The other ones are little 11 by 17 design drawings. These ones are 24 by 36 set of drawing, right? They now start getting our stamp of the architect. The first ones, we don't put them, they're just schematics, because these ones are going to the building department, right? So those ones will include a cover sheet that tells people what the project's all about, tells the building inspector what the project's all about, description of the project and the property and things like that. The team is right there, you know, who is the plumber, who is the, if there's a plumbing engineer, structural engineer, electrical engineer, surveyor, that's there. Second sheet shows a thorough zoning and code analysis of the property. So that's all the codes are applicable to this property, all the zoning requirements that we are meeting and how we're meeting them, it's all on that second sheet. The third sheet includes life safety plans. The life safety plans are generally for the building inspector and for the fire marshal when they're, because they got to approve this, the fire deputy, whoever is in charge on the fire department. So that includes smoke detectors, sprinkler systems, if that happens to be the case, carbon monoxide detectors, egress windows, egress wells, anything life safety. Where tempered glass needs to be used for safety, anything life safety. Fire separations, if there's a garage that needs to, that's attached, it needs to be separated. So all of that is on those life safety plans. And then we go through construction plans, right, which are the real construction with dimensions for the builder to be able to locate where the walls go and how the walls go, right? So we do that, we put all of that in there one by one. And that has a lot of keys that connect to other drawings that are a little bit bigger, where you can see, now I see what the bathroom really looks like, because the bathroom on that scale is hard to read. But we blow it up, like zoom in, right? And you see it bigger and you see where everything is on that, right? We call out everything detail by detail. We typically enlarge bathrooms, and we typically enlarge stairs, certain stairs. We typically enlarge kitchens, for sure, so because they need to be clearly shown, right? So we show that. Then we have a series of exterior elevations, where we show the exterior and what we're trying to do with the exterior. We show a roof plan, where we show what the roof is being done. And this is not necessarily the order, but I'm just telling you that package. And then we have a sheet that's door and window schedule. That's huge. A lot of people tell me, I hired somebody that didn't give me a door and window schedule. And I say, how would you know what size windows you needed to use and which ones complied to the code and which ones didn't? Right. I didn't. It was a nightmare. Had to go through the plans and count one by one. That already saves people time, because they can grab that window and door schedule that shows what doors need to be fire rated, what doors need to be 36-inch egress doors, what doors don't need to be, right? And the type and the finish. And they can just send that all the way to their dealer, their place where they buy that, and they can get a quote instantly, right? Relatively quickly. So that helps. Windows are covered there. Details for windows are covered there, and doors also. So that's that one sheet. Then we have another one, sometimes millwork or custom-made elements. Custom-made bench, custom-made cubbies, custom-made, certain elements that are made just for this project that you will never see anywhere else. Fireplace, custom-made, you know, insert fireplace design, where everything is for that to be able to work. And those are like almost like gadgets, right? Like the gadgets that make the difference. The bragging rights. You know, my house has this fireplace. You know what I mean? Like all of that's detailed stuff. And then we have a framing plan, where we show where all the structural elements are going to go. Foundation plan, framing plan, where all the members are. LBLs and things like that. Then we also have a coordination plan, where we show where we want all of our switches and all of our outlets. And we sometimes show the furniture so that they know we want the bed to go this way, we want the outlet to go this way, because there's going to be a side table, there's going to be this, there's going to be that. And it's special requirements too. There may be some special requirements. We show them there for, well, we need internet here, we need cable there, we need an outlet here, we need a, you know what I mean? Like certain things that are very particular, we show them there. We also do a lighting plan.
Oh, yeah.
We show all of the lights and the locations where we envision them to go. You don't necessarily have to do them like that. You can reduce the amount. We sometimes overkill with the amount of lights that we put, but it does give your electrician a guideline for how he can go about laying out his lights. Makes it so much easier, right? Helps the plumber to, when he sees the coordination plan, to know, okay, here's the toilets, here's where all these elements go. Great, right? And then we also have a sheet with some renderings, 3D renderings for the big picture, and we add that in there. And depending on the level of service, we do the video, which we show the entire house. Right? We put it on our YouTube channel. They can go watch it. They can share it with everybody. Here's what I'm building, right? And that helps a lot of people too, to envision where they're going. It's very important to have that. Right. So we add that. And that's generally your package. Then you get also an attachment with the code analysis on an 8.5 by 11 and a full report of all the structural members that we have sized. You give that with the framing plans to your lumberjar, and they will know what to do, right? So that stamped, engineered, all of the members are there. And I think generally that's what we give. Right. So additional services typically are visits that you may want me to do. Like, Darwin, I have a question. I want you to come in and take a look at something. So that's typically additional. for most of our clients, because most people like to do their own construction supervision. They like to do all their own GCing, and you know, they like to do all of their management of the entire construction. So we just go in whenever any questions are there. And sometimes we go there for free. And you're like, what, free? If it's something that wasn't reasonably clear on the drawings, I would say, no, it's my bad. The ILVL wasn't shown there. But I'll tell you, it's this size and this amount, and you don't have to pay me for this. But if it was reasonably there, you just didn't see it, or somebody didn't care to look at it, that would be an additional charge, and I would come and charge for the, you know, site visit and things like that. Yeah.
And this is, I guess, another example of the importance of having an architect. You know, they're basically building the roadmap, a very detailed plan as far as what needs to be done. So one thing that, for an example, Gary Vee mentions is reverse engineer your goal. So you're basically reverse engineering the house. You know, you're starting with the end first, you know, in mind, you know, what you want the house to look like, and you're basically giving this full roadmap to everybody that needs to receive it, from the inspectional departments, the contractors, the electricians, the HVAC technicians, the general contractors, even the plumbers. You know, they're all getting the information that they need to make sure that they're making your dream come true and building this house the way you want it, and that meets code and requirement. So there's really great information.
Yeah, there's one bonus too that I didn't mention that people get.
There's more.
Yeah, that's right. So in fact, it's probably some of the most important one, and is, you know, many other designers or architects may just deliver those drawings and they're out, right? Yeah. That's it. We also do speak with the inspectors. We also do talk to any of the municipalities that will be approving this, the authority having jurisdiction, because we want to make sure, do you get it? Do you understand it? Was it all clear? Is it all good? Right? Sometimes also many developers don't know how to apply for the permit, and they don't know who should apply for the permit, right? The contractor can apply for the permit with his license. The owner can apply for the permit with his ownership of the building, right? For single families in Massachusetts, you are allowed to do that as an owner. We can apply for the permit also, and sometimes we guide people. And if you go to our YouTube channel, we have a whole video into how to apply for a building permit, which applies to most municipalities here because they're using similar systems. One is Viewpoint Cloud, another one is Citizen Cloud or something like that. They use similar systems. So do you know how to do that? Because you're faced with all these questions. Yeah. And the goal is not to have a beautiful set of plans. The goal is to have a beautiful building. And to get the building, you got to get the permit so that you can build it, get the inspections, pass inspections, and be done. So on that process, we get calls from the inspectors, and we answer them, and we guide the owner and the team. Well, what he means is X. Sometimes also, there is a situation in which the inspector may not be able to go to the site, which happened in your case. Right. Inspector couldn't go to the site, and he required an affidavit by the architect stating that that structure was correct, that the structure was proper. Right? So there are incidents in which the building department is closed, an act of God, some situation. But you got to keep making your money. You got to keep building. So the architect can go there and certify that that insulation was proper, certify that that structural was proper, certify that that met and complied with the code. And that will save you a lot of time and money, because for you to schedule an inspection when there is an act of God might take months, versus you already have that done by a professional that knows what he's doing, and it's over. You can just close your walls and move forward. Because that part, many of you probably will be, I'm done with everything. I just want to close my walls and paint. Right. And put some, you know, it's like, well, that closing the walls takes a little while. So if somebody can sign off on it and make a move, oof, you're saving money there. And that's just a couple costs. It's not even a lot of money. So it's very quickly, you know, something simple. Yeah.
So this is the full picture of what you guys should be expecting when working with an architect. You know, I wanted to showcase, you know, what you guys need to provide, what you guys should expect to receive, and how to kind of go about the whole process in working with a spectacular architect. On the flip side, however, I wanted to, you know, based off your experience, I wanted to, you know, this course is meant to protect and help, you know, our students from making the typical mistakes that most flippers make by not getting courses, by not seeking mentorship, by not working with professionals. So we really want to help try to avoid as much as possible some of the pitfalls that first-time flippers that have no education on how to flip. We want to help you guys avoid mistakes. Based off your experience, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen first-time flippers make?
A lot of, it takes a lot of courage to be a flipper.
Yes.
It takes a lot of courage to be an entrepreneur, period, right? Yeah. And more so if like maybe English is your second language, your background isn't in finance or building, you didn't even go to college. There are a lot of things that are like, oh my goodness, this is all confusing. And because of that, many people don't seek help. They don't seek counsel from anybody, right? So they just go on and start doing things. And because that courage is inspired by the passion of building and doing. They're like, I'm going to do this, right? There's a problem with that, and it's the fact that then they start building and they don't even know what they're building, they don't even know when they're going. So oftentimes we get calls, probably the number one call from a lot of investors we get is, I have a stop work order, and I don't even know why.
What is a stop work order?
So a stop work order is basically a complaint against whoever is building there, saying that they first didn't get a permit, and second, are doing things in violation of the regulations of that particular town. Right? It might have been the neighbor that saw it, and people, oh, the neighbors are gossip. It's not that. We have a process. We have a procedure, and it makes all of us better. Because if everybody was to do whatever and whenever, we will have chaos, right? And we wouldn't be the place we are, which we are very happy to be. So that's the first one. We get these stop work orders because they install an LVL. They didn't even size the LVL. Nobody knew. They knock a wall down, and they didn't even know if it was a structure or not. They just did it, right? So we get stop work orders for all of these different things. And it is, I said it at the beginning, it takes a lot of courage and energy and passion to go ahead and do something like this, right? Because it's not something mom and dad did. It's not something everybody's doing, right? So if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? So that's the number one call I get. And it's triggered because of that desire to work and act, which is actually coming in good faith. They just want to move things forward. They just want to build this thing and make money. But they probably didn't even know that they needed a permit. They needed to go talk to the town. They needed to get an architect involved. They needed an engineer. They didn't know. And that's sad, right? So that's why we're educating people here. And that, a lot of the things we've said here right now alone are actually very, very helpful for them. They're going to save a lot of money just by knowing this information that we have here. So that's one. Don't work without a building permit. So the other one is, I guess, don't work without an architect from the very beginning, because that will start triggering a lot of mistakes, a lot of issues along the way, and we hate having to clean up somebody else's mess. Nobody likes to clean up somebody else's mess. So I don't like the stop work orders, but that's how they come to us, and then we guide them. Get the architect, talk to him. He will guide you through what the permits are, what you need to do, right? So don't start building without a building permit. Don't think that you can do that. Just ask. When in doubt, always call. Always call the architect. I sometimes don't even want people to call the building department.
Wow.
So that's another one I don't like. I don't like that because it's almost like you have a matter. Could be a infraction, a driving ticket or whatever, right? So and you start talking to people and whatever. Like, get an attorney, and the attorney will be very upset if you are talking yourself, because you need representation. So in the business of architecture, we are your agent.
There you go.
Right? Your agent in real estate, the agent talks for you. Okay. And that sometimes people are very excited to do things themselves, and they're hurting themselves, and they don't even know. They start calling building departments, telling them what they're doing and what, and then derailing the things. And then the inspectors start getting a little upset. Many times they don't speak even English, and the inspector is very frustrated. And then when we come on board, the inspector is like, oh my gosh, it's been a nightmare. They probably think I hate them, but I don't. It's just a nightmare. They didn't get an architect. They started putting LBLs without it, and it's a nightmare, right? So don't install LBLs without being sized by an engineer. That's another one, right? An architect or an engineer that can size the LBL. Don't think that because it worked on the previous flip, it will work on this flip, right? Not, yesterday truth is today is nothing, right? So you don't even follow that. So that's another one that I don't want people to do, and they keep doing sometimes, right? So and it's all that desperate sort of moving forward on things out of sequence, right? Calling people out of sequence. So on that end, those are the calls we get. We get calls on things being installed without being cleared, right? Building without a building permit, not knowing that they can't do that addition because they're on the setbacks, right? They don't know that. So a lot of those answers get resolved. Those issues get resolved easily early on. Later on, they start costing 3 times more, right? Because if I do a flip, put it in perspective. for anywhere from like $2,000 to $10,000. Let's start in there, right? Well, and you call me to mitigate the problem. I'm going to charge you for first going to mitigate the problem. Then I'm going to charge you for doing the drawings. Then I'm going to charge you for going to zoning and filing the matter. Then I'm going to charge you for cleaning the stop work order. It ends up being 15.
Right.
And you're like, and I didn't save time, and I lost, you know what I mean? And it doesn't work. So those are some typical things, you know, that I also don't want people to start just putting things on the building without clearance from the architect after the design was done. So what I mean by that is there is improvements that can be made during construction. That's true. Call the architect even to ask. They might not ask. They might not charge you for that. Just call, because we design things the way they are, and there are things you may not know, and I don't even want to explain to you. I don't want to explain to you that that panel is a not touch panel. That's an electrical panel. That's going to be a problem. I don't want to even tell you all. Imagine if I was to explain every 2x4 that's in the building and every little inch. It would be a nightmare. But if you tell me, I am planning on doing X, Y, and Z right now, I just saw an opportunity within the building, I opened up a wall that we were going to demo anyway, and we can do a really cool closet here. What do you think? We may be able to design that very quickly and make it work and not trigger all the things that you didn't know about, right? So it's all along the lines of always ask, right? You know, don't assume, ask, double check, right? Don't start work without a permit. Don't start doing additions without a permit. Don't close walls without the walls being cleared. That's another one. They close all the walls, they put insulation, they never pass framing inspection. So then they're gonna have to rip all the walls down, and they're gonna have to tear it down. It's over. So those are some typical ones, and we can go on and on because that could be unlimited, right? So there's a lot of ones, but
that's amazing. I mean, we have a lot of that information. This is why we follow a process. This is why we give you guys the process that you guys are going to be following to avoid these pitfalls, which Darwin really explained really well. So I think now, I mean, this has been great, a great interview, great course, great information that you provided, Darwin. For our viewers here, you know, you've explained a lot that you have different YouTube channels where you guys can continue your education in regards to architecture, because although you don't need to become an expert or you don't need to become an architect yourself, it's good to become at least acclimated with like certain terminology, certain information, so you guys have a better understanding. So as you keep doing your flips, you guys are getting better and better through each flip. So if you can explain, we're gonna have it in the we're gonna have the links down in the bottom. But if you can give us your handles.
So we have our YouTube channel, which we're very proud of. We've been working very, very hard with our director of media, Edwin. So, and Flow Design Architects is the name. So you go to YouTube, right, Flow Design Architects, and there is all of this educational content in there, free to the public. So that's one. We also have a YouTube, Instagram. So that's Flow Design Architects. You go to Flow Design Architects and you're gonna see it there. We see all the content there. I also have a little side hustle. So I have Fortuna Flow, which is a channel in which I talk to people about investments in general. Okay. Recently only about crypto and things like that and stock, but we're gonna be talking about flipping. We're gonna be talking about Airbnbs and things like that, you know, different hooks and different life hooks, you know, right. Different life hacks that you're like, wow, I can make money that way? Yeah, you can, and it's legal. It's all good, you know what I mean? So different things like that. So we also are thankful to Caperuco TV, which is the team that's behind most of the media that we have. Caperuco TV, Desde Zeta Films, are all behind us, and they have that's a YouTube channel that I recommend everybody to follow. In general, just to stay together. Like the more we stay together, the better. But Flow Design Architects for sure, because that's the place where you can get a lot of content on YouTube in general. Zoning reviews, code analysis, typical mistakes people make in general. Any of that's going to be there.
That's amazing.
But yeah, thank you for having me, man.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you. It was a pleasure working with you. I wanted to give my students the best. You are the best.
Thank you.
If you guys are doing local projects, he also does different states as well, so keep that in mind if you want to reach out to him. His contact information is below. But on to the next course, guys. I definitely hope that this helped you guys and gave you a lot of insight and information. So you guys can have a complete project with a great architect.
Excellent. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, brother.